If you see someone acting wild or barbaric in public, some might say they were being an animal in a derogatory way, but oftentimes, the non-human organisms that populate our planet are way smarter than we give them credit for. They breathe the same air, drink the same water, and even use the same physical and mental skills to survive. The Hub has gone off the grid and into the wild to bring back these specimens, 10 creatures with human-like features. Some of these abilities are tricks taught to animals in captivity, while others are attributes learned over time. Either way, our fellow animals can be smarter and more resilient than you might think. Although you stand upright, have opposable thumbs, and can speak for yourself, there's always more you can learn about this wild and surprising world of ours. So click on the subscribe button and keep following The Hub for the latest fact-based videos about this wonderful planet on which you're living. Yeti crabs. Yeti crabs may not look like walking, talking humans, but they don't really look like crabs we're used to seeing either. These deep-sea crustaceans lurk in underwater darkness with hairy arms that end in grasping pinchers. Making their homes outside of methane vents on the ocean floor, they forage for bacteria around the warm vents, and once they catch the microscopic organisms in the hairs on their arms, they wave their limbs around in a dance-like motion. Scientists believe this is done so that the bacteria can be exposed to as many chemicals and elements surrounding the vents as possible, so the tiny organisms can grow into bigger and better forms of food. This dance is believed to be a trait learned over time, giving the crabs a better yield. On top of this human characteristic of bacterial agriculture, the creatures, along with other members of the deep-sea ecosystem, consume methane before it escapes into the atmosphere, so they're ultimately good for the environment too. While the Yeti is widely considered to be a mythical animal for above-ground people living in mountainous regions, the Yeti crab is a very real and very essential part of the undersea life cycle. Sociable weaver birds. With the ability to sustain themselves in the dry and hot African deserts, sociable weaver birds have acquired some human-like cooperation and construction skills to give them an advantage. Other songbirds tend to build open bowl-shaped nests in high and hidden locations. They arrange their eggs in such a way so that they can easily escape if danger arises, and the bowl style is generally a quick and easy method for nest building. A much smaller percentage of birds produce a dome-shaped nest with an overhanging roof to provide protective covering. It's more work for the birds to create, and it's more permanent as well. And sociable weaver birds take it a step further. Unlike retreating to their own personal perch, the weaver birds form a tightly knit community and work together to build massive nests that hang from high places, entirely enclosed with tunnels lined in soft grasses and an exterior of dried straw. Unlike other birds, who regularly need water to survive, these nests have the airflow of a man-made housing complex, keeping cool air circulating thanks to the layout and constant structural improvements, meaning the birds can go without water for much of the given week. In fact, the nests are so effective, these weaver bird colonies often call these nests home for, on average, around 100 years. Gorillas. Now, the gorilla is much closer to us on the evolutionary scale than other animals mentioned so far, and it's always worth noting just how remarkable their ability to communicate really is. Although they're stereotypically territorial and can be quite violent if you get in their way, gorillas' language of grunts and vocalizations can be interpreted into 17 different conversational terms. Gorillas make a burping sound, for instance, to let others know that they are near and not to be surprised by their presence. An sound means that the animal has claimed a particular set of plants and warns the other animals to stay away. They even laugh and sing to communicate contentment and indicate that they're ready to play with others. Outside of their own sounds that have been developed over countless generations, they also famously have the capacity to learn complex sign language and respond to normal speech patterns when humans speak English to them. Coco, a gorilla who lived with human researchers, was able to pick up ASL terms and sign back to her caretaker, human Penny Patterson, in what became a parent-child relationship between the two. Coco can even watch her favorite movie, Tea with Mussolini, and signs her sadness at the most dramatic moments. African gray parrots. Covered in gray feathers and ending in a bright red tail, the African gray parrot has been kept as a pet for centuries, dating back to early Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations. Originating in Central and Western Africa, these plant-eating avian animals can be pretty needy when it comes to attention, but like many testy and particular people, they prefer minimal physical contact. Too much petting, literally and figuratively, ruffles their feathers. Their most human-like ability is their mimicry, and they start young, able to repeat long phrases after hearing them only a few times. While many assume that the mimicry is just a repetition of what nearby humans have stated, the African greys actually can learn to understand the words they're repeating. They can associate concepts with colors and shapes. Additionally, when presented with options, they can categorize objects as similar or disparate when given the opportunity. Pirate captains got it right when they started putting parrots on their shoulders. They found a smart bird who could easily remember important phrases and recognize patterns in the world around them, which are helpful characteristics when searching for buried treasure. Elephant. They say an elephant never forgets, which is sort of true. With some species living 70 years or more, there's a lot to remember in those big brains of theirs. But they can also learn new traits and make new discoveries. In the Bronx Zoo, an experiment was undertaken to see how well elephants could recognize themselves in the mirror. Usually, when presented with their reflection in a crystal clear mirror, many animals think the life form looking back at them is just another member of their species, not themselves. Elephants can be different, argued Joshua Plotnick, a grad student studying the social complexity of these gentle giants. According to his research and other studies performed in Korea, elephants can join the empathetic and exclusive club of humans, primates, and dolphins who can see their reflection and know it's them. To confirm they had this ability, elephants' faces were marked temporarily with a white X. When placed in front of a large mirror, the elephants moved their trunks against their faces, checking for the X, while recognizing that the match in movements that they were doing simultaneously to the movement executed by the elephant staring back at them meant they were looking at themselves. Mice. Mice scavenge and scurry about, and while these tiny critters are more likely to cause feelings of annoyance rather than empathy from the humans they encounter, you may want to look at them a little closer the next time they cross your path. According to recent studies, mice have the capacity to convey facial expressions in response to various stimuli, just like us. Developing a mouse grimace scale, the researchers were able to pinpoint the level of pain mice were experiencing based on the level of facial changes observed. They even found that mice can sense the pain felt by other mice and react accordingly. Although their anatomical differences make it impossible to compare human faces to theirs directly, changes in eyes, nose, and cheek position allowed for scientists to compare just how mice reacted to the pain equivalent to a minor headache. To a psychologist from the University College London, this isn't surprising, as facial expressions come from early mammal evolution, when mice and humans shared a common ancestor. Therefore, most hairy animals should have this ability. This would explain why most humans, even in isolated cultures, share a common set of facial expressions. Katydids. Bugs look more like alien invaders than humans, but katydids have some remarkable characteristics that can't be ignored. We evolved from the same shared ancestor a very long time ago, much further back than we shared an ancestor with mice, but our ears have advanced in surprisingly similar ways. Although their hearing has a frequency range of 30,000 Hz more than humans, and they have 2 eardrums per ear instead of our 1, but they similarly rely on vibrations within the ear to transform sound into hearing. Now, katydids' ears are much more sensitive than our own due to the nature of how they communicate. Singing at higher frequencies to attract mates, humankind is unable to hear the noises those bugs emit. Unfortunately for them, their sounds are perfect for the echolocation skills of bats on the lookout for a tasty katydid. Regardless of the danger posed to singing katydids, scientists plan on continuing to study other species who can sing as high as 150 kHz, which is the highest known sound emitted by an animal and which likely has a more interesting ear to study as well. Octopi. Ozzy the Octopus is becoming a local celebrity at Wellington, New Zealand's Island Bay Marine Education Center. As octopi are the only underwater animals able to open a jar, Ozzy broke records by twisting a container's lid off in under a minute's time. These tentacled creatures are incredibly smart. They can learn tricks, they can play, and they can open child-proof bottles. Perfectly bred to maneuver through their marine environments, their capacity for brilliance only limited by their short lifespans. Our shared ancestor was likely around 700 million years ago, and we've changed greatly since then, but octopi brains are massive, like ours. Following experiments undertaken by biologist Jennifer Mather, she argued that octopi possess a primary consciousness. While it's not as complex as our own form of consciousness, an octopus is believed by some in the scientific community to be able to rely on the memory of past life events to inform future decisions. They use this consciousness to solve problems and to survive. While we as humans can trick our enemies, these cephalopods take it to the next level. Some species can make themselves into rock shape and move across the ocean floor inch by inch, timing their movement to match the shifting of light refracted by the water's surface. Dolphins. Behind humans, dolphins are known for being some of the smartest animals on Earth. They're nimble, fast swimmers with a playful side. For those who aren't as fast, certain bottlenose dolphins have taken to clutching sea sponges in their mouth and scraping the ocean floor to pick up plankton, small crustaceans, and the like. This simple dolphin life hack gives them easy results and is believed to have started only a little more than a century and a half ago. Back in the 1830s off the coast of Australia, a female dolphin discovered the sponging trick and passed it along to her daughter. From there, it was passed from mother to daughter for generations. Now, more than half of all female dolphins in the Indo-Pacific use this technique to hunt for food, and some males are getting in on the act as well. A side effect of this seabed foraging means that the sponging dolphins have an entirely different diet than those who hunt at higher depths. Humans, who have spent more time in front of the television playing video games, may be more susceptible to eating junk food. These dolphins, relying on their own primitive form of technology, have now adapted to the food that's best available to them. Sheep's head fish. It's sometimes hard to see similarities between our guild friends under the sea and other land-based animals, but fish can have surprising similarities to humans if you look close enough. There are yellowfish with flat Homo sapien-esque faces and other fish with lungs, but most interesting is the sheep's head fish, which creepily has square and straight human teeth. Seriously. The mouths of a sheep's head could be inspected by a human dentist without issue. Sheep's head fish are more common in and around the Americas, but they've been spotted elsewhere around the world. Now, you might be inclined to say that these fish are copying our dental style, but actually, it's quite possible we evolved with our straight-edged teeth after they did. The biggest difference in dental anatomy between us and them is that they have several lining the top and bottom of their mouths, and they can bite hard shells, fisherman's hooks, and pretty much anything else you put in front of them. If we were to feed them a diet of shelled crustaceans and mollusks, for instance, their enamel would display harder characteristics, proving that while physically similar, we can't compete with these highly adaptable teeth. Whether they think in patterns, play silly games, or share facial features, animals are smarter than we give them credit. If they're able to pick up context clues and follow orders so well from us, there's no telling what they'll be able to do in the future. Rather than subordinate beings, these creatures are our partners on this green earth, and as we grow and change over the next millennia, it'll be fascinating to see how we all evolve together. And until we reach that distant future, keep watching The Hub for more interesting analysis of our scientific past and present.